Okay, so welcome everyone. We're here to present ZKX. It's actually our first presentation ever after a year of building in secret. So thank you very much for being here, every one of you. So let's get started. Leveling the playing field for perpetual trading. So first of all, we'd like to talk a little bit about derivatives markets in crypto. I think there's a few data points that sometimes people don't really get to see. So we'd like to go over these first for you. So how much volume did derivatives in crypto have last year? $56 trillion. Yes, that's the correct number. Sounds crazy, but that's about 50% of the overall volume in crypto overall. So that means that derivatives and spots trading are always split around 50-50%. Now, there is an interesting data point, which is perpetual swap trading grew 300% last year compared to 2020. So it's a massive area of growth within crypto. So now, within derivatives, what are we talking about, right? We're talking about perpetual swaps, futures, options. About 90% of it is still perpetual swaps. Users and traders and investors love it because they don't have to think about expiry dates, strike prices, no complexities. You just buy exposure with any leverage you want, and there you go. Now, something we discovered was that Asian exchanges still dominate the perpetual swap market and derivatives markets in crypto. So if you see like this list of the top exchanges, Binance still has over 50% of the overall market, and the rest are mostly Asia-based exchanges. There is two exceptions with FTX, which used to be in Asia, but not anymore. And the only decentralized exchange you can see on the list is actually DYDX, which is on the way to decentralization. Something interesting, is why are perpetual swaps useful? So perpetual swaps are commonly used to hedge your positions in spot trading, as well as create delta neutral strategies and overall compensate for the volatility of these crypto assets. And this is especially relevant in our space where with new tokens you have high volatility phases and high price swings. And perpetual swaps are key piece in the ecosystem to balance that out and provide hedges for everyone. Now, something we discovered was that with decentralized derivatives exchanges in crypto, they have had certain growth, but not a lot. And you can see that by comparing the number of pairs on a centralized exchange versus a decentralized derivatives exchange. A centralized derivatives exchange like FTX has more than 100 pairs, whereas Perpetual Protocol, for example, barely has 20 pairs. And there's a set number of reasons why is this happening, and we'll cover that now. So why these decentralized exchanges are not growing as much as we thought they would? So there are several factors. One of them, they depend highly on oracles. So if an oracle doesn't support the token price feeds that you need, you will have a hard time scaling and providing secure, reliable derivatives for that token. Another aspect is, Yeah, not working good at this moment. There you go. Thank you. All right. So something else that we notice is that you cannot list assets through governance. The governance is actually kind of centralized if you look most of these decentralized protocols. So it's not like a third-party protocol can go there and apply to list their token and offer some rewards or incentive for people to trade that token. Maybe a last aspect we would like to mention is there is no native instruments to bootstrap liquidity within these exchanges. They still rely on market makers. They still rely on the emission of their own native tokens. So we haven't seen any mechanism like Uniswap implemented for yield farming or liquidity mining within derivatives. So further up, I'd like you to introduce ZKX. ZKX is a Starknet implementation for derivatives, Starknet being Starkware ZK rollup. We're very excited to work with Starkware team. We got a lot of support from them, and yeah, we recently announced a grant from Starkware, so really happy to be building in the ecosystem. So what is ZKX? ZKX is a permissionless perpetual swaps protocol built on Starknet, designed to provide built-in liquidity mechanisms and token and swap listing through governance. Now, there's a key piece here that we'd like to discuss. As you know, virtual AMMs are not necessarily the most capital-efficient designs for derivatives. They have slippage issues as well as problems with the funding rate and the overall, distribution of fees. And we didn't want to go for a centralized order book. We thought that, we need to make something that is new and that really follows the ethos of decentralization. That's why we're building our own unique node network, which is going to have its own consensus layer, as well as a data availability mechanism, so the nodes don't have to download the entire state of the order book. And that means that any one of us here in the room can download the node client and start performing services for the exchange and interacting with the L2 smart contracts on the ZK rollup. Now, if you ask us, okay, how do you leverage growth within a derivatives exchange? There's a key piece here, as we discussed, which is how do you list tokens faster than anyone else? And how do you let, the community hedge their positions with newly created tokens? That is something that centralized exchanges do very well, but right now decentralized exchanges don't do as much as well within the perpetual swap space. So what we introduce is what we call the swap liquidity mining, which is a mechanism through which any protocol can actually go towards the community and the DAO, propose to list a token as a swap, pass it through the governance, and offer incentives for the traders to come in and start trading that token. That means that, all of a sudden there's a native built-in mechanism for market makers, traders, and investors to go and start trading these newly listed swaps, because they're going to get token rewards in any ERC20 that your DAO or your protocol will choose to offer. So there is a certain number of fundamentals here that we wanted to create in terms of financial innovation. And we're working very deeply on these areas. And the reason for that is because, if you are listing new tokens and new assets, these are going to have higher implied volatility than just any regular swap or any regular asset. So we're creating a new kind of funding rate called adaptive balancing rate, ABR, which is going to adapt to the implied volatility of the assets and react in much faster time frames than current implementations of funding rates, which are usually tied to 8-hour cycles, 12-hour cycles. We want to do this much faster, so day traders have a better environment to trade and less, possibilities to arbitrage against the system. So we tailored this presentation towards the event today, so we wanted to talk about DAOs and how we are actually implementing a DAO within Starknet. As you know, Cairo is its own language. There's no solidity. We have to build everything from the ground up. So that is taking, a lot of effort from the engineering team, but we feel it's going to make for something quite unique and new. So what do actually, governance tokens really represent these days? Do they really represent the community, the users that are using the protocol? Are they representing the investors? Are they representing, the whales? There is a lot of questions around that, and that's what got us thinking, in terms of designing a system that actually makes and represents everyone and all the stakeholders within a set protocol. As you know, airdrops are just a limited snapshot of who's actually using that protocol at a certain given in time, and it's highly biased, so it's not necessarily the best tool for representation within a DAO or a protocol. Moreover, B-tokenomics are very interesting and obviously help lock up the supply of the token, but do they really represent the users and the traders, or they just represent the whales over time? So there's a lot of questions around that, and that's why we want to introduce liquid governance, which is basically a liquid and instant representation of all the stakeholders within a protocol at any given point in time. And the way we do this is by actually creating a system that will measure all the triggers and actions of the different stakeholders within the open source protocol and reward them with what we call virtual governance shares. So any action that a user takes will let them to accumulate more and more representation and power and rewards within the protocol. Same for the node operators, same for the DAO members, same for the token stakers. So that means that all of a sudden within the DAO, you have a mechanism to represent everyone in a more equal terms. And at any given point in time, whoever is actually the most, the person who's most involved with that open source protocol will be able to have representation as well as, the most advantages and rewards. As you can see, there's discounted trading fees, revenue sharing of the protocol, other features like higher leverage as well as more types of trading orders. All of that will be set within, this structure of how many shares or virtual shares you accumulate. So what about the token holders? Obviously, for the token holders, you still have the classic staking pool, be tokenomics once again. The longer you stake, the more virtual shares you accumulate, and the more representation you have within the protocol. But that means that, if you're someone who has a lot of, capital to deploy, you use this protocol a lot, you can directly lock your tokens and get discounted fees, get additional leverage, and get all the benefits from being, a high-level stakeholder in the protocol. So this is going to be an open source piece for the entire ecosystem. We plan to open source it and leave it, open for everyone to use within the Starknet ecosystem. So we're going to, slowly develop that into a full-fledged DAOist in Kaido, and that's one of our, future projects as well once we launch ZKX. So yeah, I think when launch, that's going to be summer 2022, hopefully. Nethermind's going to be doing the code audits, so that's our alpha leak for today. And if everything goes well, we're going to be launching over the summer. It's going to be a stage, process where we're going to launch the token first, then the governance, and then the community can select to launch the protocol. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope I didn't go too fast, but yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to answer them. Thank you.
We have time for maybe 2 questions. Gentleman there.
How would you mitigate bots from taking advantage of the activity-based governance shares? Like, couldn't you just write a bot that would periodically interact with the protocol and generate disproportionate governance shares?
It is a really good question. So maybe I could introduce the concept of how we're designing the liquidity mining algorithm. And that will give you an idea of what we're trying to do to limit those use cases, those particular exploitation, economic exploits. So the way we're designing the rewards algorithm is what we call the high tide process, which basically tracks your consistency of trading, your P&L, as well as how many players are trading on that particular swap. And we call it an inverted Gaussian distribution, where if you're just doing wash trading, the algorithm will not reward you at all. And will not give you both the ERC20 rewards as well as the actual virtual governance shares. So we're trying to do our best to actually implement those. And right now, a lot of the work we're doing is to select all of the triggers that are going to let you accumulate the VGS. So for a node operator, it's going to be how many trades are they settling over time, how consistent they are, how rewarded are they node peers. So there is a lot of factors that go into play. It's not a simple system. But obviously, over time, we're going to have to basically do our best to test the assumptions in terms of, how someone can go there with a bot and exploit it. We're doing our best, and we think that, by doing these kind of mechanisms, we're going to limit that activity.
Cool. Thank you.
We do have time for another couple questions, maybe.
No? All right. So I just want to give you 2 cents. Tomorrow we're speaking at L2 Amsterdam. Our CTO is giving a technical talk on how we're working with Cairo and Starknet. And then you can also check us out in our mixer on Saturday. So if you want to come to our mixer, just talk to us. We're around. Thank you.
Thank you.